Well, we're here. It's David Ingram again. We're in my living room where I've lived for the last 40 years. Actually, it's 2 months short of 40 years. And it looks like I just moved in, but that's beside the point. It always looks like I just moved in. But I have one of my, I'm going to call her one of my very favorite people. You all know who have watched this program before, that Paul Swingle, who's sort of my favorite psychologist. And I credit him with curing so many people that I know. And I found out just this afternoon that I actually have 6 clients that are attending his services or using his services right now, which I thought was sort of neat. But a couple of years ago, in the polar bear swim, as we were leaving, we ran into Paul and his wife, Rosemary. Got invited back to their place for what became a New Year's Day dinner with Terry Rhodes and so on. And that was so much fun. And now Rosemary's opening an art gallery, so she's here to tell us all about it. Rosemary, do I call you Rosemary Barron or Rosemary Swingle?
Well, Rosemary Barron Swingle. Rosemary will do.
Rosemary will do.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when I met you, it was, I'm going to say 1997.
Good memory.
Or 1998. It might have been March 98, February 98. And you and Paul came to my office in Capilano Mall.
Oh, that's right.
And we were talking, and I asked Paul what he did. And he said, I cure ADD. And do you remember how skeptical I was?
Yes. Decidedly so.
Sure, what quack have we got here now? Okay, because I just finished doing not doing it, I helped with a 2-hour documentary produced by a friend of mine here in BC about ADD, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about ADD, and the one thing that the 2-hour documentary came out, it was a radio one, there was no cure. All that everybody was doing was teaching everybody to deal with it. Now, there's a reason I'm leading into this, because Paul, I don't know, I'm sure he's got somebody that's a bigger fan now, but I haven't met them. He fixes everything with people's brains. And you have this artistic home that I've been in with paintings and art and so on all over the place. And now you're opening an art gallery. Why are you opening an art gallery? I mean, I'm not sure. I think you're older than I am, but maybe not.
Thank you.
But no, I'm just trying to I think you are. And why the heck are you starting an art gallery now?
Well,
You're close to my age anyway, so.
I've been involved in the arts all my life.
Yeah.
And I come from a background of artists and artisans. And I grew up in a milieu not probably appreciating it as much as I should have when I was younger, in New York City, with museums and architecture and music, and it was just part of my lifestyle.
Well, I grew up with all that stuff, and as you can see looking around here, there's all sorts of different kinds of art. There's carvings, there's jewelry, there's jade carvings, there's bronzes, there's all sorts of stuff, but I'm not going to open up an art gallery.
Well,
I mean, you're sitting under a Chinese lion.
But I worked in this area.
Yeah.
And when I was a child, I was down in my father's workshop carving alongside of him. And I won hobby contests in carving.
Are you a wood carver?
I did some wood carving.
My favorites are wood carvings.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, because I started off in wood, and then I went into welding and stone carving.
Richard, can you reach me a couple of my Eskimo carvings up there? Have you got some of those up there? There's all sorts of stuff around here, because we've got, you can see I've got a, well, I don't know what you call that welded thing up there. We got a little bit of everything.
Yes.
But there's a few Eskimo carvings. Well, there's jade and there's some ivory carvings and stuff there. And, pardon? Well, we got some stuff up there too, but there's some, I've got bears and, well, I thought there was a whole, aren't there 5 or 6 Eskimo carvings in there? Oh, those are Chinese carvings.
Mm.
Okay. Well, anyway,
Well, even when I was a very young child, preschool age, my father went off to the Aleutian Islands.
yes.
And he sent me back little fetish pieces of carvings. And somewhere along the line,
Oh, I mean, there's one of my polar bears, for instance.
I won't hold that. I can see it's heavy. And it stuck with me.
So this
It
is
grew with me over the years.
So you can see I have an interest in some of this stuff
Yes,
myself.
I do. Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to open up an art gallery, although I've thought of it lots of times. What is your gallery going to... Now, what are we calling it? We're calling it the Barron Gallery?
Barron Gallery is what it's going to be called. But I moved slowly in this direction. I had an appreciation of art, fine art, as a child. And given where I grew up, and for example, I did very, very poorly in high school in mathematics. And my parents didn't know I was ever going to make it through high school. I failed math, and in order to graduate, I had to go to repeat a class in math, and I was sent to a high school in New York City on Saturday mornings, and I was bored to death, didn't want to be there. But what I looked out the window and saw was the sculpture garden of the Museum of Modern Art.
You're kidding.
No, and that's where my attention went. So
And
maybe that's why I gravitated toward this situation. However, what really started to happen as I became matured and became a young woman, I obtained work in galleries and museums, and it just grew. It just simply grew in a particular direction. And as a young woman, I started to work for art institutions that had galleries. Whether I held some directorships of organizations, but they always had a gallery component. And I found myself working within, for example, the Arts and Crafts Workshop for Carleton University.
In Ottawa?
In Ottawa, yes.
Yes, okay.
But it also had a gallery component.
Yes.
And then I became involved with the President's Fine Art Committee for the University Gallery. So somehow or another, I was always involved with a gallery. And it just grew and grew and grew. And I worked for other people in other people's galleries, and I thought, one of these days, I'm going to do something different. And when I was in New York City, I worked for a Ford Rockefeller Foundation that had a gallery. And it was very formal and very sophisticated, and you almost had to be on who's list in order to get in.
To even get in to see it.
Yes. And I got to the point, whether it was in New York, Boston, Dalhousie, a university, no matter where I seemed to end up in the world, even in Ottawa, when you walked into the gallery, there was an intimidating factor. You would open the door and look around, and someone would look over the top of their glasses at you.
You do that very well. Can we have a close-up of that look that she just had?
Okay,
look
I'll
it over
do it again.
No, yeah, look it over that's what they do. You got it.
And then size you up enough to perhaps offer you the black binder.
So that
and if you received the black binder, you would get the name of the artwork and the price alongside.